Friends, I don't have a drash for you today. I have a huge pile of notes instead. We'll see how it goes. This week's Parsha is?
Tol'dot.
You know, I should make the people who came to Torah study teach the drash. Like that should be you learned it in Torah study, then you teach it. So there's a joke. It's actually not a very popular one, frankly, but it's out there for rabbis, and it goes like this. When we list the patriarchs of our tradition, we say Abraham, Rebekah, and Jacob. Does anyone know why? Why? Abraham, Rebekah, and Jacob. Why would we deviate from the format? She changes the course of everything. That is to say, she switches the blessing. It's Abraham who acts with agency in the story. And then it's Rebekah, who acts with agency in the story. Isaac is one of the first questions I got when I ever taught a course in the University of Arizona about Jewish tradition. They said, "Now, why is Isaac so boring?" And you know what? That's not quite the phrasing I might have used, but I would say that Rebekah is the one who exercises agency, who speaks to God directly, right? And gets a prophecy for her efforts. From the very start of her story, when Rebekah meets Isaac at the well, that was last week, right? Rebekah is the hero of her story. She chooses, okay, I'm going to give water to this guy. She says, it's Isaac, I'm going to get married. She literally gets off the camel to go to Isaac. Camels, by the way, are an anachronism in the Torah. It's a little bit of a weird thing. And then we have the Rebekah of Chayei Sarah, right? But it's a little different than the Rebekah of this week's Parsha, right? And what's changed? Motherhood. Right? Motherhood has changed, right? But the real question we need to ask is, does Rebekah want to be a mother? There's an obvious answer to this, which is, it's the ancient world. Everyone wants to be a mother because that's the only way you get value in society if you're a woman. So, obviously, yes, but unfortunately, it's a little trickier than that. On the one hand, as she's leaving to go marry Isaac, her sisters bless her, right? And they say, may you grow into being myriads of thousands or thousands of myriads. Don't quote me on it, right? It's a blessing for fertility that she receives from her sisters, right? And on the other hand, that blessing ends with, may your offspring possess the gates of those who hate them. Which is a very strange blessing. And does this apply to Jacob? Right? Because Esau is also her offspring, but not the one she sees as her beloved one who's going to carry on the covenant. So, okay, back to Rebekah and the mother. We got distracted a second. In this Parsha, right, who prays for children? Isaac. It's Isaac who prays for the children. It's Isaac who wants children. When they're having trouble conceiving, Isaac is the one who approaches God. And the Midrash actually said that Isaac goes back to Mount Moriah, where he almost got sacrificed, climbs up and petitions God from there. He's quite serious about wanting children, Isaac, right? And literally the text says, Isaac prayed on behalf of Rivkah. After the strong, independent voice of Rivkah earlier, that doesn't quite fit our narrative, does it? That's not the agency that we come to expect. So the first time we actually hear Rivkah's voice, right, in talking about motherhood, right, it's her saying, she literally says, Lama anochi, right? Why me? Or at the beginning of Genesis 25, I think, yeah. And specifically, she's referring to the children in her womb who are fighting with each other, right? 25, 22? It's middle of 25. I stand corrected, right? And Lama Anochi is usually translated as, why do I exist? Why am I Like, what's going on here? Why me? That's not the traditional, like, a discussion of motherhood. I meet in this job people who are expecting, and rarely are they like, why me? Right? But that's what Rivkah here is doing. And then her next step, right, is her going to see God. Literally, the verb is lidrosh et Adonai, to inquire, you could say lidrash, for an explanation, right? She goes to God. And our rabbis have a field day with this. Rashi says, this is a very painful experience, being pregnant, and why did I do this? Like, why did I want this, right? Ibn Ezra says, actually, she went around to all of her friends, and she's like, was this experience like this? So similarly, right? And then they were like, no, it wasn't like this. Sforno says she's just very anxious about her pregnancy in general. And the Kli Yakar, who's actually quoting an earlier midrash, says that the reason it's an uncomfortable experience is because when she went by a synagogue, specifically a study hall, right, Isaac would wriggle really hard. And when she went by like a pagan or idolatrous place, Esau would wriggle really hard. Wriggle, like to wiggle around, to struggle, right? And so she didn't know she had twins, right? So she's worried that her child, she's like, what is happening here, right? And the Kli Yakar goes further, actually. He expounds upon the midrash and says she was really afraid that there might be two deities in the world, right? And she prays to God to be like, what's happening here, right? But Ramban says, actually, she wishes she'd never been born. And then a French rabbi, Chaim Paltiel, right? She's like, I don't like this. She's having this depressed almost experience, right? Chaim Paltiel, a French rabbi, says somewhat heretically, she's considering an abortion. Right? This is 100 years after Ramban. This is a big deal, rabbi. This is not like a fringe idea. Rebecca is not praying for her children here. She's praying for her pregnancy and for the experience she's having. Rabbi Tali Adler of Hadar, actually, some of y'all probably met Tali Adler, yes? Writes that Rivkah seeks God, but not in the moment where she desires a pregnancy, but where she's considering ending one. A moment where she's contemplating a choice that many in the world would see as godless. She literally asks God. And God, by the way, doesn't answer Rivkah's query with a yes or no. Right? God simply gives her information, right? Here's what's happening. 2 nations are in your womb, right? And is saying, this is what you need to know. It's as if God is saying, look, here's, I'm a big fan of God's pastoral work in this moment. Instead of saying, do this or do this, yes or no, God says, here's what you should know. You make a decision. And we know the rest of the story. If you don't, come to Torah study, right? Rebecca guides Jacob into tricking Isaac, gets Esau's blessing, right? And in all of this, right, Isaac is baffled and surprised. Esau is heartbroken. Jacob is a little confused, but Rebecca seems pretty chill about the whole experience, right? Some would say that is like a calculating and manipulative experience. Was she made cynical by her experience of motherhood, the pain of pregnancy, of childbirth, the tension in her children? But others would say, no, Rebecca simply takes the information God presents her, that her sons became the progenitors of different nations and in competition with each other, and she makes a choice, the best choice she can in any moment, right? She says, all right, listen, I'm going to give the divine birthright to this son, right? Knowing that Isaac always has a blessing for the other son. And she loves Jacob, and she sees that he's learned in both study and agriculture and not in violence. It's Jacob in the story who both understands and listens to the women around him. So Rebekah's choice monumentally changes our Jewish origin story. But in doing so, in setting up the main character, Rebekah herself is the main character. She doesn't lose her independence. She doesn't lose her assertiveness. She doesn't lose her intelligence. And it's God who respects that and doesn't say yes or no, but gives her just information so she can better make choices. And she's the hero of the story, doing the best she can in a difficult world, which I think is the best any of us can do. And for that, we joke, but only half joking, and say, Abraham, Rebekah, and Jacob. So, some food for thought. Shabbat Shalom. We are going to begin our Torah reading